trucks to parachute planes. Let's see where we drift to. Buffers in reverse, road signs wrecked. It's CK gaming time. Driving trains, trucks to parachute planes. Let's see where we drift to. Buffers in reverse, road signs wrecked. It's CK gaming time. Driving trains, gaining the stations, forgetting to stop. Driving through red lights, bad buffer stops. It's time for CK Sim Gaming. CK Sim Gaming time. CK Sim Gaming. Driving through stations, forgetting to stop. Driving through red lights, bad buffer stops. It's time for CK Sim Gaming.
Good afternoon everyone, welcome to another stream. Yes, back on Train Sim Classic today, just for a shortish scenario. Well, 70 minutes, but a shortish stream then, better to be said. On a freeware route, the Barnstaple to Exeter route, so I'm just going to be driving one of the scenarios that comes with the route itself, which is just the typical run from Barnstaple to Exeter. Actually, we're going to St James's Park, actually, but not the one that's in Newcastle, but St James's Park near Exeter for a Class 143 service. So without further ado, let's get into Train Simulator and then we'll get going. Hope you are all well. It's been a little while since I've done a stream. I doubt if anyone's missed me, but you never know. But anyway, I'm just waiting for the screen to appear. When it does. There we are. So here we are. This is the Barnstaple to Exeter route. Doesn't have a thumbnail. I'll have to find that mod where you can add a thumbnail back into it. Quite an old freeware route, this one now. Although it is, I think it is a requirement for some other freeware routes now that cover a bigger area of Devon and Cornwall. So this is the scenario that I'm going to be doing this afternoon, which is 2 Juliet 89, the 7 o'clock service from Barnstaple to St James's Park. It's with a Class 143 in DMU, Class 143 in first Great Western colours, and the scenario is about 70 minutes, although as always, add about 10 minutes on because I'm literally driving it. So anyway, we'll get going. Have some new screens coming up now, as they do. They update these little screens, don't they? So yeah, it's been a while since I played a scenario on this route. I think the last time I played on this route was a scenario with a Class 205 thumper in it, if I remember. Good morning, driver. You are charged of the first train of the day from Barnstaple, the first Great Western 7 o'clock service to St James's Park. Ensure you get passengers to Exeter in time for their connections. Load passengers ahead of your scheduled departure time of 7 o'clock. Right, before I do anything else though, I just want to just check a few things first. I don't know if there's anyone in chat, but if there was, it'd be great if you could let me know if my sound was a bit higher. I'm just going to lower the game sounds just a little bit. Thank you for following John Ramos, 1985. Good to see you. I'm just going to fiddle around here. Right, I think that should be enough done. Right, so here we are anyway. We've got the pacer out today. Class 143. Hey, Mr. Big Rail fan from Philippines, how you doing? I've seen you in other streams as well, and I think you might have popped in to one of my streams as well in the past. I hope you're doing alright. Very nice to have you here. From such a long distance away as well, which is always nice to see. I have had viewers in the past, or still do, from Australia and New Zealand as well, so it's nice to have some people from the other side of the world in. We're just doing a service on a free rail route from Barnstaple to Exeter, or just outside of Exeter. Is that a pacer? Yeah, this is the Class 143 pacer. Some people will call this a fake pacer because it's kind of like, because the Class 142 is also known as the pacer, and then this is like an updated version of it, really. Just got a different cab windows, and the seating inside is quite comfortable compared to the other sort of seating that you have. So some purists will tell you that this is a fake pacer, but anyway. NIMBY rails. Yeah, I think you were talking about that on, was it Carter's stream yesterday? I think you were talking about it. I watched a stream back from Carter, one of his VODs this morning, and I think you're in chat, I believe. Right, anyway, so we'll get going. So the first stop on this service is called Chapelton. As I said, probably will be running a bit late. Using that game to recreate the local rail network helped by the British in its construction. Cool. So a lot of this route is going to be single track. It's located in the southwest of the UK. Now there are other routes in Train Simulator that go through Exeter. So this is like one of these little local commuter lines that heads from North Devon, I believe, Barnstaple, and then it goes down to Exeter itself. So as I said, a lot of this is going to be single track. A lot of this route. There will be some sections with double, but not many. So I'll just show you the route map here. So we've just started up here in Barnstaple. When you wind your way down to Exeter St David's, which is just down here, and then the route also covers Exeter Central and also St James's Park, and then there'll be another line that goes off here which goes to a place called Exmouth. There is another free rail route you can get that actually goes down to Exmouth. Some of the rolling stock are sourced from the UK and Australia, or most are from European nations, China and North America, given the needs of individual lines. Yeah, so it's quite multinational, isn't it, really? You get a bit of everything, really, there, don't you? It's pretty cool. In your NIMBY, I guess you're talking about your NIMBY Rails route there, aren't you? That's good, though. Why not? I'm not one of these people that kind of is a stickler so much for realism, so if people put different trains in different places, it doesn't bother me so much. That doesn't really bother me at all, to be honest. So if someone was doing a scenario from London to Brighton and put like a train that doesn't normally operate on the route, it's all cool. But I know there are people out there that obviously like to have things as realistic as possible, and why not too? Yes, both the diesel powered lines and the electric service in real life under construction. Yeah, that's cool. I've never been to that part of the world where you're from. Furthest east I've ever been from the UK is Finland. It's about as far as can be for me so far, although, you know, still time. So the first station we're going to is Chapelton. Now I'm probably going to pronounce some of these place names wrong, so if I do, so be it. Please write any comments. This stream will also be going up on YouTube, onto my YouTube channel later today, which is CK Sim Gaming as well. So we're heading towards Chapelton. As I said, this is about a 70-minute drive into altogether, but the route distance itself is not too long. It's very... I'm trying to think what they called. They give this route a name, but I can't remember what it's called now. Unfortunately. So this Class 143 train comes with one of the dovetail routes you can buy for Train Sim Classic, which I believe is the Riviera line. So when you buy the Riviera line's route, this is the train that you get also with it as well, the Class 143. So if you're interested in this Class 143 train, that'll be the route that you have to get to also get this train. In the GWR livery. I think there's another scenery route that Dovetail did, or a pack that also had the 143 in it, but I think it came with a different livery. I can't remember now. So unfortunately I can't give you a link to this route anymore. Well, actually, just thinking about it, I'm trying to think. I don't think it was a UKTS route. It might actually be a route that you used to be able to get on DPS simulations. US and French funding and assistance, that'd be cool. It'd be nice to have the French assistant. They do quite good at building railways, especially when it comes to high speed stuff. We're having a high speed line in the UK built at the moment, but it's just taking quite a while and costing a very, very large amount of money. All just to save probably about 15 minutes in time, but at least it will free up one of the lines to more commuter traffic though. So I suppose it's that. So we're coming up to Chapelton. Now you might find on this route that some of the level crossings are acting weird. Now I don't know if that's just because of the most recent update for Train Simulator Classic, which I think was quite a while away now, where it kind of affected the scripting of some things having an effect. I'm not sure, but... So here we are at Chapelton. Nice little rural stations here. Some of them, you know, with just little huts that you can use to stand in case it's raining. Obviously you can see where this used to be double track, because you can see the remainder of where the other platforms have been in the past. Now, as I said, some of this does open up to dual track in some places. It's just so that other trains can pass each other during the journey. So this is two car units joined up together to make a 4 car. Now I believe also one Class 150s also operate this route. this scenario is based on a few years ago as well, so I don't think they'll be using these class 143s now. Why are we not moving? Weird. Okay. We got this weird bug that's just appeared. You get this bug sometimes with this train where it kind of stops, which is a shame. I hope not. Oh, there was a way out of it, I think, if I remember. Just have to bear with me a second while I remember what I used to have to do to get out, to stop it from acting up. There was something it used to do when it used to do this. You know what's annoying? I played as... Oh, here we go. Right, it's all good. Sometimes it just acts up now and again. Right, anyway, we're heading off to Umberley, which is about 2.5 miles away. There should be an instrument panel switch here somewhere as well for the for these lights here. Those are for the headlights. That's for the sander. Destination. There we go. Panel light. There we are. Not bad speed limits along this route. You know, 60, 70 miles an hour. Some sections get down to about 45, 40, if I remember. Next station, as I said, is Umberley. We got a 35 coming up. And we're already running late. Well, that's nothing new, is it? I did say we'd probably end up running late already. Just going over a little bridge here, over a river. Not sure what river this is, unfortunately. If I had that cool little app that Carter uses, the Third Rails app, it might actually tell me what the river was called. Anyway, we're coming into Umberley now. Got someone waiting at the station here. Very sort of bus shelter type buildings and the old station house. So yeah, we got the head code, the destination Exeter Central. I think it's just because this train doesn't actually have the destination for St James's. Now there might be a mod out for this where it adds more destinations so that St James's Park can be added in, but I'm not sure. It might be because normally the train would go to Exmouth, not St James's Park perhaps, and because St Exmouth isn't on this route, it's only going as far as the last station on the route itself. Right, next stop is called Portsmouth Arms. Right, so why it's doing it again. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, hang on. There we go. Anyway, we've got a 35 limit. It might be to do with the way I'm braking as well. I think what happens is that the brake reservoir gets really filled up, and then when you release it, it doesn't release straight away. It takes a while, and that's why I think we don't move, because the brake's only just starting to come off now. So we've sort of been driving along with the brakes kind of locked a little bit there. Anyway, the brakes have come off fully now, so at least we should be able to accelerate a little bit more now. There's one of the unmanned crossings with no barriers there. I think if the light flashes, it basically is telling you that the... because I think it has an audio, an alert sound so that cars stop, and until that point, then I don't think the signal will flash. I think just to tell the driver to be careful. I think I can't remember which way around it is, but anyway, Portsmouth Arms, next stop. Which is about 3.6 miles away. So we got a 55 limit along here. I think this line in the autumn does suffer from a lot of leaves on the track and wheel slip and that. I think they do a lot of training along this line as well, I think, to teach about wheel slip and all that sort of stuff on this line, if I remember. Right, coming up to Portsmouth Arms shortly. Have a great stream. Thank you, John, and thank you for the follow. Coming up to Portsmouth Arms now. Just approaching Portsmouth Arms. There's a railway carriage there, look. Have a quick look around the station. Little bus shelter there. And we have a Mark 1 coach over here. Now I don't know what they're using this for in reality, or whether or not this is still here or not. If you probably look on Google Maps and Google Street View, you never know, you might still see it here, if it still does exist. Right, Kings Nympton is the next station stop. You can see if this train is Carder compatible. I don't think it isn't. I don't think you can open the windows on this train. So, yeah. There we go. We can do the roof view. Everyone's so into roof views at the moment, so here we go. No clag though, no exhaust. Or you can have a roof view from the other end. Oh, look at that over there, look at the smoke. Anyway. Kings Nympton is next. Ahoy, HT, the CST lovers, yes. Hey, Card, hello. You must have just heard me talk about you. I was saying that this train isn't Carder compatible because the windows don't open. So yeah, no opening windows here. So we're on a freeware route, which is quite an old route, from Barnstaple to Exeter. Although we're going to a place just outside of Exeter called St James's Park. And we're driving one of Irascable's favourite pacers. This is not an HST stream, no, I know. The only thing in common with an HST stream is the fact that the numbers 43 are in the stream title. That's the nearest you get. Oh, he'll be angry. Well, he will. He might unfollow me. I'll probably go to his channel and it'll say, sorry, you're not allowed in. So anyway, we're just driving along. A lot of this is single track. It does go to double track. This is one of these routes, Carder, a bit like the route that you were driving the other day, where you have to stop and get tokens and stuff. So it's another one of those kind of routes. And you have to get the tokens. Do you know what? I can't even remember saying that, but it doesn't surprise me. I just come out of all sorts of nonsense every time I stream. A lot of times I never remember until I watch it back another day, another time. And then I think to myself, did I really say that? Did I really do that? But I did, apparently. I can never remember half the things I do. More the base game for newer people. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have the same opinion yourself. You know, if you're new to Train Sim, unless you can get like routes really cheap in a sale. You know, like if they do a humble bundle for Train Sim Classic and you get a lot of stuff for free, then it's all right. But you know, if you're starting off from scratch, it's a bit horrific, isn't it? You know, you'll see people, for example, streaming the latest AP content, and then you realise and you think, well, that's good, and then when you actually delve into it and realise that you've got to buy so much other stuff. Same with free rare routes. It's all well and good me, you know, when we play free rare routes, but a lot of the times even for free rare routes, and it's the same not for just for Train Sim. I mean, obviously, you know, when it comes to the Dutch stuff and some of the German stuff, and also OMSI, you know, of all the route maps you have to have and all the libraries and loads of assets from other bits and pieces. Right, this is King's Nimpton. I did have a quick look at the station, didn't I? I think I did. There we go. As I said, a lot of these stations in these little rural areas just use little bus shelters, and they have the original station buildings, but I think a lot of those probably are private occupation now. Right, I'm going to have to wait a minute, because this train's got an interesting little bug with it. Now, some people in the past might have realised that when they drive this train, it gets stuck and doesn't move. Now, the reason for that is when you leave it in a certain brake, I think it's brake 2 or above, what happens is that the brake cylinder fills up, and then when you release it, it gets to about 2, and then it just takes forever to come off until it gets to about 1.5 to 1. That's when you can start moving again. So what's happened in the past with this train, I've seen it myself, I've done it myself, or when other people streamed it, they get to a station, they have the brakes on, and then when they then try to move, they go, oh, the train's got stuck, but it's just because the brakes are still locked up. So we should be able to move now, but not as quickly as we would do, but the brakes are slowly coming off, so it's all good. More the bait, yeah. I mean, it's great when you can get stuff in the sales as well, though. But sometimes it can be you sort of jumping into a rabbit hole with Train Sim Classic, as you mentioned and I've mentioned before. When you've been having it for a long time and you've basically gained your collection over time, then it's not too bad. But if you're sort of like new to it and you're just starting off, then yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Right, anyway, we're heading up to the next station called Exford, or Eggisford, which is a shame Egbert's not here, because I think this station would be very appropriately named for him. Exford Up, I like that. So that's about 3.43 miles. So those that are just sort of like popped in, I'm just doing a scenario between Barnstaple and St James's Park, just outside Exeter. It's a 70-minute long scenario, although with me driving maybe 75 to 80 minutes. Yeah, you thought of Egbert. Yeah. Eggisford. I don't know how it's pronounced. Only the locals would know. It's a local route for local people. I suppose the German equivalent of this route would be the Mittenwald Barn, or whatever it was called. Being that that's single track and with a diesel. But yeah, I watched the stream back this morning. I was watching you play the Whitemead scenario. And I think you did another stream this morning, didn't you? Which I missed part of it, but I think you were driving a Class 700. But like I say, the good thing about a Whitemead scenario is he always gets into it, and he's almost like he sort of portrays a scene for everything, you know. He won't just put like, oh, you drive from A to B, and there might be some rail works, and then basically you just drive along, and then that's it. And then you get to an area where the speed limit changes. You know, he'll look at everything and go, right, I'm going to put loads of tractors in, I'm going to put loads of pipes in, I'm going to make it look like a construction site, and then he'll have signalmen standing around. Whenever there's like a dodgy signal in the scenario, when he made it, he'll always have people standing around as if to signify that the signal's faulty. He was always very good at telling a story, Whitemead. And obviously he's now gone on to other things. He does sometimes pop in the streams from time to time to say hello, but obviously he's not really doing any train sim stuff anymore. But it's a shame, really, because you know, he did do some nice scenarios. And like everybody else, you know, he started scenario creating, and then when you compare his first scenarios he did towards the ones he did before he stopped, you know, there's a very big vast difference. I mean, he was doing scenarios for OTS simulations. So when you play some of the scenarios for some of their routes, the most recent routes, I think he did some of the scenarios for those as well. Obviously you don't know it's Whitemead, but I know he did do some stuff. He was for a while Thomas Harrison, who obviously has Train Sim TV, but also at the time was a tram driver for Blackpool, and then he left for Just Trains, and now he's working there doing the Train Sim World routes for Just Trains now. But he did Harrogate Loop, he did Northern Lines, Cumbrian Coast route as well. And when Train Sim TV was streaming, well, he still streams now and again, when Tom's streaming, Whitemead used to be one of the moderators there as well. Yeah, that's the trouble, isn't it, now? And that's one sort of thing that puts me off a little bit with train sim at the moment, is like you always start to play a scenario, but there's always things you need to find. You know, even when AP bring out a pack, it's like people are still not happy with what's in the pack, and then they'll try and find ways to improve on it or do modifications to it. You know, so AP, you know, they bring out the 66 and then there'll be like headlight patches and all sorts of things that you've got to find on some scenarios as well. Although things like destination patches isn't really such a big deal. I think it's only so that when you see other AI trains go past, they'll just have the proper destinations on it and not different ones. But right, anyway, you can see we're at a passing loop here, and we've got another train that's waiting for us to come by because we're running about 6 minutes late. It's probably been sitting there for a while waiting for me. Now, I think, as I said before, I think the level crossings are playing up. Now, it might be because it's just, again, it's another thing of this train sim scripting thing. Right, here we go. So this would be where you would get a token from here. So someone would pass you a token. So I guess someone would come out of this little hut here and would give you a token. And then at some of these little rural stations, there's also a little button that you would have to press. So the driver would have to get out of the train, and there'd be like a little button he presses, which then operates the level crossing. But you can see this level crossing is kind of half of it's working. So yeah, enter with care. Look, he's even got egg too. I like that. Look at that, egg too. Shame it's not egg with 3 letters though. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? Right. We'll just go very slowly. The next stop is called Lapford. Oh, look, there you go. That barrier goes down and that one goes up. These level crossings used to work pretty well in the past, but I'm guessing it's just because of the scripting thing that's happened, you know. And you'll probably find the person that did these level crossings in the past is probably not anywhere around in the train sim community anymore, so the chances of them ever getting fixed is probably nil. Although obviously there are some very good level crossing assets you can get with some Just Trains routes and stuff like these days though, so. But I think the person that actually even made this route is probably no longer doing things. Anyway, we got two pacer units today. So anyway, Lapford is next. Now you're probably wondering where this route is, aren't you, Carter, really? But you'll see when we get nearer to Exeter. Because you would have driven past here so many times when you're playing scenarios. But it was always just one of those lines that just disappeared off at a junction, and you never obviously could see where it went. You know, it would end up going to a dead end after a couple of 100 meters or so. I'm trying to think, didn't you do a scenario that started at Exeter recently? Or maybe I'm thinking of somewhere else. But yeah, the most well-known station in Exeter is Exeter St David's, but there's also Exeter Central. It's with the pacer on the route icon. Riviera Lines. But also Riviera Lines covers Exeter. And also Southwestern Expressways. Because you go from Exeter up to Taunton and along to Reading. So that also covers it. Bristol to Exeter is another route that covers Exeter. So Exeter's in, I think, probably, well, quite a few routes really. But on Riviera line, Exeter is like one of the start and end points for the route. So you either start at Exeter or you end at it. And this is the route that the Pacer comes on. So if you want this train, you have to get the Riviera line to have this train. So that'll be why it has it on the thumbnail. So this, as I was saying earlier, this route gets quite bad in the autumn because of all the leaves. So a lot of drivers get trained on this route because it's not a busy route. So a lot of drivers can get trained on this route about how to deal with wheel slip, you know, and things like that. You know, Great Western Railway drivers, that is, I mean. But because of all the trees and the fact it's got quite a few gradients up and down here and there, but in the past, a lot of this was double track, but with like everything, a lot of things had the tracks taken away and then they were just left as single tracks. And then they just have some of the stations with double tracks, just so that other trains can pass each other. No, it's still in day-to-day use, Carder. They still have regular passenger services along here. I mean, I doubt if it will ever close, but I mean, if it ever did close, it will just end up being like one of these lines where you have a speed limit of 25 miles an hour constantly, which would be a bit annoying. I think they just have like an hourly service along here now, although I could be wrong. I think it could depend on the time of day, you know, when it's the morning it'll probably have 2 services an hour, and then during the daytime probably just 1 an hour. It basically goes from North Devon to South Devon really. So you can see a little bit of disused track. Now obviously this is just a snapshot of the route in the past. I mean, it could have changed it again since, obviously. You know, because this was before GWR got all the nice green livery, so this is all the older style livery. So this route is probably set how it was in probably 2000s maybe. You know, so it's probably based on how the route was like 15 years or so ago, or whenever it was. I mean, it's still quite up to date because you have things like the help point and stuff like that, but anyway, we've got Johnny Cab driving today, as Jelly Bean like to call him. Right. So yeah, you're going to see it. When I start moving, I can't move, and it's all because the brakes have built up. So you know, I'm going to have to sit here and wait now for the brakes to come off a little bit, and then I can start to move. But it's just one of those things, because a lot of people, you know, in the past, as I said, you know, they'll get this train and they'll drive it and then they'll say it's buggy because they say it stops moving, but it's only because this brake goes up. I mean, there's a little bit of a bug with the brakes, and you don't have and you see this doesn't work, this little compressor speed up, because if you did, you could do that and then it could make the brake feel, you know, sort itself out quicker. Sorry, bye. Well, hopefully we can move now a little bit. Yeah, the brakes are still coming off though, you can still see it's on 1 bar. Enjoy the 1 hour. Yeah. I've done that in streams in the past, you know, where I've done this. I think Wherry Lines was a good one. I remember Wherry Lines, I did a scenario. And I was literally just sort of like watching the passengers get on, and then it got to a point where I was like thinking, well, I've got to go now. And then all these people were still striding down the platform, and I was going, that's it, bye. I'm off now, bye. And I just drove off and left them. Because I thought, well, the train's already 5 minutes late. You know, you should be lucky that you're even getting the train. And if you don't want to run to it, well, tough, you're not going to get it. Morchard Road is the next stop. Some interesting stations along this route. Now, I don't know if in reality they have semi-fast along here. I doubt it. I think every service probably stops everywhere. They might have request stops on this train route in real life, though, like they do on some other routes, like in Wales or the Wherry Lines. They would have some stations as request stations, so you'd go to the guard on the train and say, oh, just to let you know I'm getting off at Morchard Road, and then he would obviously, or she would then stop there. And also some of the stations would be like bus stops, you know, so the train would come along and then the person would have to wave at the driver so that the driver knew to stop there. You don't let nobody out. Oh dear, that's terrible, Carter. I mean, they could have a hospital appointment. They could be rushing off to give birth to AI people. They could be late for work. They could get fired. Look at the consequences of your actions. It's terrible. That might be why sometimes, for example, when I'm in flight sim and I'm in GSX and the stewardess doesn't turn up, and I think, oh, the stewardess from the bus passenger from Omsey hasn't turned up today. I wonder what happened. Did Carter lock her in now? I can think, well, Carter must have locked her in the bus, and she's now been late for her flight, so she couldn't turn up. Although, to be honest, they've actually got rid of those Omsey stewardesses now, so I don't think they actually exist anymore now in GSX. They still got the old lady from GSX from Omsey in GSX though. The old grey-haired old lady, she's still one of the passengers, and I think the old guy with the beard, I think he's also still a passenger, but most of the other people have gone now. Little AI Manfreds, yeah. Yeah, we got to watch out now, you know, because AI is obviously getting a lot more influential in the world. So we better be nicer to our AI people in games now, because they might get revenge. Right, anyway, we're at Morchard Road. On you get then, off you go. Right. There we go. Is anyone else getting on? I like the little bungalows around, you know. Like whoever made this route, even when they were displacing the houses and bungalows down, you know, they weren't just placing them down. They were putting care and attention into the fences and putting the cars in the driveways and putting some bits and pieces just in the local area. Right, Copplestone is the next station. I'm just going to do the buzzer. It's because normally they'll buzzer me, but because I'm out of the train, then I don't hear it. So this has got a synthesizer sound horn, sort of like a synthesized church organ horn. But yeah, it's a shame that the windows don't work. Although if you want to pay $29.99, you might get an AP pack with 10 different horn sounds, brakes that don't play up. Do they work on the 142? Yeah, I think so. You got to remember that there's 3 142s out there. There was the original. The first 142 that came out for Train Sim was the AP Wagons. So it was like a co-collaboration between AP and Wagons, and then that was the first pacer cut that came out. And then Dovetail brought out a pacer model at some point as a separate DLC a few years later, and that's like that. And then that was also, if you get Huddersfield to Leeds route, that pacer comes with it as well. So if you didn't have that pacer before, then if you just buy Huddersfield Leeds, then you get that pacer. And then of course AP then did a V2 of the pacer, because I think they wanted to update the pacer, but because Wagons wasn't doing anything anymore, AP had to kind of start, and I think AP then got the model of the Dovetail model. So there's the Dovetail 142 that I was talking about, and then AP then took that model and then sort of did their own pack with it, I think, if I remember. So yeah, there's, like, as I said, 3 different pacers out there. Oh, I just realised I'm supposed to be stopping here. The brakes on here are amazing though. I was literally doing 50 odd just then, and I think I'm gonna manage to stop. So yeah, he's a very good brakes on this train. Now obviously the real life pacer probably brakes aren't as good as that, but you know. Anyway, we managed to get to Copplestone, and we're amazingly we're 7:44. Yeah, we're about 7-8 minutes late now, which is fantastic. There's some people sneaking on the train at the last minute here, so we'll see what happens. I might have to leave someone behind. So yeah, nice little streets of houses. Some little houses with balconies there. Right, anyway, is he getting on? Oh no, he doesn't want to get on. Right, next stop is Yeoford. Sorry about the noise if you can hear anything. It's that time of year now when it gets very noisy. Anyway, I hope my voice isn't being drowned out by the sound of the train too much. As I said, I haven't done a stream for about, I don't know, about a month now. So I was sitting there looking at OBS when I started the stream, and I was trying to work out what to do again. It's terrible. Volume balance is perfect. Thank you, Carter. That's nice to hear. I've got a bit of a downhill section now. And we should be getting up to about 70 soon. Although I'm just going to let gravity do its job. Might as well not waste too much fuel here. It says I'm speeding, but that's because... oh yeah, of course. Silly me. Why did I think it was the 70 already? I think I saw the 70 and thought that was the limit after, but I was a bit ahead of myself. Anyway, anything to make up a few seconds, I suppose. Anyway, I'm going to call it Yeoford. It might be Yeoford. I don't know, but I'm just going to say Yeoford. Bit like Pucker Pies. Or Puka Pies, as you like to call them. Puka Pies. But yeah, like as I said, you know, Pucker Pies, they started off just being like a small bakery business that sort of like supplied to like a couple of towns locally, and then they supplied meat pies to like the local football club or whatever. And then because they then got more popular, then they grew and grew, and next thing is they're like nationwide now. So you can literally go to any supermarket in the UK and they'll have Pucker Pies in there that you can buy. Right, we're back on double track again. And start slowing down. Okay. So yeah, as I said yesterday in the stream, I think, yeah, the next AP pack is going to be a Class 66 pack. So it's like an enhancement pack of the enhancement pack. Yeah. Oh, you managed to find a pie. Brilliant. Right, just have a quick look over here. I did see some shops. Was it some shops here? Oh, it's like a restaurant there. There we go. Kind of. Maybe they sell pies in there. So you can see where the old platform used to be. Or what remains of it. But as I said, a lot of these stations now are just basically a station building, and then they have like a bit of a bus shelter. And a help point, you know, if you want to talk to somebody far away in a call centre somewhere. Now with an even louder call-in fan. Yeah. Well, the thing is, I don't know. I mean, it could be like... I mean, there's already different headlight configurations of the 66, depending on who's operating it. So there's probably different variations of call-in fan, because obviously over time they might have updated the call-in fan with a different cooling fan from a different manufacturer, or an updated cooling fan. So you could have quieter cooling fans, or it might be, you know, all sorts of things. Little differences, you know, maybe the brakes are supplied by somebody else now, so maybe the brakes are of a different sound, you know. And I think that's what he's been doing now. you know, with the other packs, you know, like the HST packs, it's like, well, there's like different shaped windows in the guards compartment, and there's like the different headlight grills depending on what era the HST was in, different turbo chargers and different coolers and different brake pad systems, you know, which is why yesterday you were driving along and you had that whooshing sound on the brakes. Well, because there's like two different braking systems they had in the past. So one had like the whoosh effect, and then drivers would complain about the whoosh effect, so any train after a certain year that had those brake fixed, you know, the whooshing sound was removed or I don't know what they did, but anyway, soundproofed it or whatever, so you could have the same brakes but less whoosh. You know, and also things like I think they say, if you look in the manual, which I know is a dangerous thing to say to you, but there's like something to do with an oil thing as well. So on the roof, sometimes near the exhaust, there's a 10% chance of you seeing like an oil something or whatever, I don't know, oil dripping or something, I don't know what it is, but anyway. And then obviously you've got the toilets as well when people flush the train, because on an HST there isn't no tank that everything gets stored, everything would just fall onto the track. So when you went to toilet, pulled the chain, pulled the flush, everything would go on the track. So, you know, it's just mad. I think it's just trying to think of ways to sort of like extend the life of a product. Because in a way, you know, Train Sim Classic is AP's bread and butter. So I suppose he's just trying to think of new ways to sort of like try and keep them going, you know. Let's think, you know, I bought out the Valenta pack. Well, what can I do to make it even better in the future? Oh, I know. So, you know. I mean, I'd like him to go back and redo the thumper, even if it was just like a small update. But I'm sure even the thumper probably had a few things that changed over time. And definitely add some clag. It'd be nice to have clag factor on the thumper, because like any diesel train, you know, I went on thumpers where it was like really belching loads of diesel smoke, and then other times it weren't so bad. So that would be nice as well. Right, we're coming up to Crediton soon. Which is where I hand over a token again, because I think Crediton is almost the last station before Exeter, so it's probably the stations in between where you have to give the tokens over, although I could be wrong. But anyway, we have to do a token here. So it's just a little level crossing without any gates, so I think this must be, is that like a hen house or something? I don't know, maybe there are chickens in there or something. Right, we've got to stop just before Crediton, because we have to hand the pretend token over to somebody. If I remember, I think he's waiting at the track, and then you just go on the marker. I think he's at the signal box, and then you just stop and hand him the token, and then you just carry on into the station. There you go, you can see him standing there waiting with his little fluorescent clothing on. There we go. So you'd lean out the window, you'd give him the little token thing, and then obviously these level crossing barriers would go down, but obviously they're not. So we'll have to go very carefully here. Oh, is the barriers going to come down now? Just seeing if anything happens. I see the lights come on, but no, barriers aren't moving. These used to work once upon a time, but yeah. Anyway, never mind. I think it'd be a bit silly if someone tried to drive over the drive through the barriers now. A little bit. Right, anyway, into Crediton we go. Right then, there's the old style self-service ticket machines. I still used to like these because they were so simple to use. I mean, you literally used to look for your station on here that you were going to. Obviously it doesn't really help if the station was in the, because obviously it didn't list all the stations, but all the stations in the local area. So you used to choose the station you wanted to go to, and then you had all the options of like what you wanted. Was it a return? Was it a single? Was it a child return? Was it a child single? And then you just press the button, it'll tell you how much you got to pay, and then you would literally just stick the money in. Nowadays it's all these computer screens, and sometimes the computer screens don't work properly, and yeah. But there we are. Right, Newton St. wherever that is. 2.61 miles. So you might actually change to a different token here, I don't know. But anyway. So you might get another token which is like for this bit, not sure, but anyway. But yeah, we're getting quite close to Exeter now, because Crediton's maybe 1 or 2 stations away now, I think, from Exeter. It becomes a single track again, and then we can go up to 70. But you do get quite a few scenarios with this route. They're mainly just based on like services where you go and drive one way or drive the other, or might be where you're starting first thing in the morning and you've got to start from the depot or something. It's kind of interesting weather in the game. It's like it's gonna wants to rain. The other thing I like about Train Sim Classic though is you just get in the train and everything's all set up to work, isn't it? You know, in TSW you get in a train and then you go and then you have to find where the AWS is, where the other stuff is, and then you have to then enable them. Whereas on TS Classic you just get in and then everything's just already enabled. Most of the time. I mean, sometimes you might get a train where you have to enable it first, but when you get in these sort of trains, You don't have to look around to see where's the switches and things. Right, anyway, Newton Saint, wherever that is. I'm not trying to pronounce that. I'll just say Newton Saint, and then everyone else can fill in the gap themselves. Right, we're still doing 60. I'll put on the super brake in a minute. Right, here we go. We're at 50. Right, let's put the super brake on. Yeah, hang on, people. But it's not. I mean, when you think about it, though, I mean, compared to other forms of transport I've been on, you know, I think probably the most severe braking I've ever had was on an aeroplane. I think probably. When landing at Gibraltar a few years ago, and then probably had the 737 equivalent of max braking, I think. Either that, or we were going to go off into the water at the other end. But there's probably, actually saying that, I think the worst braking I've ever had was when I was a kid on a bike, when I rode into like a wall. Don't ask. And I think I went from about 15 miles an hour to 0 in about a split second. Probably explains why I am the way that I am today. I think it was because I was showing off to someone how good my bike brakes were. So I rode towards a wall and said, "Look, watch." And then I got to near the wall, and then my brakes didn't obviously work as well as what I thought they did. Anyway, Exeter St David's is next. Now you're going to see whereabouts this route is when we get to the junction here, which is probably about 3 miles away. But there's still a little bit more left. I mean, Exeter isn't the end. Still got a couple more stations after Exeter to do. Although we won't be going down the Riviera line at that point. We'll be going off on another line that normally goes from Exeter to Salisbury and Westbury. No, not Westbury, sorry. It goes to Salisbury, though. Calls at places like Honiton and Axminster. You can drive a little bit down that route, actually, in another freeway route from Exeter down towards Salisbury. See, no one's going to know I'm not driving the Valenta now, Carder. until I go in the cab, of course. Right, we're coming up to the junction now. Roof looks a bit more rusty, does it? Oh, I don't know. Right, anyway, we're coming up to the where we join onto the main line. Looks like it's all the green, so we're not having to wait for anything. Now, I can't remember if we'll see an HST. We might see an HST in this scenario. I can't remember, because there could be one at Exeter. Although now that I'm running about 8 minutes late, there might have been, but it might have gone already. Right, so anyway, we're coming up to the junction now. Right, so I'm just going to shoot ahead. So when you're heading north from Exeter, you go around a corner on train sim normally when you're heading up towards Bristol or Taunton, and there's always this building on the right here, and there's like a junction with a little railway line that heads off to the left. Although if you're coming from the other direction, it obviously comes in from the other side. So that's the line that we've just been on anyway. So, which normally in Riviera line, well actually, Bristol to Exeter or South Western Expressways probably goes just down there a little bit and finishes. So at least when you come down here now, in another scenario, you can go, oh, I watched CK drive down that line the other day. So now you know what's down that track. So now we'll start heading in towards Exeter St David's now. Of course, Exeter has an airport as well. Not a very big airport, but it can you get holiday flights there with 737s and Airbuses. No, EasyJet and that fly there as well in the summer months. Well, we've got the yard on the right. Some wagons and stuff. Of course, Riviera lines in the 50s is quite cool because you get to see what the railway station used to look like in the 1950s. You know, when you see a lot more track work and things than you do these days. But yeah, I might be going down a little bit of track that you might not have seen in a minute carder, because again, you know, we're not going down the usual route from Exeter, we're going off on another track. So you might have been down there before in a scenario. I can't really remember. Right, coming into Exeter, there's a pacer sitting there. I don't know if that was waiting for me. Probably. So yeah, if there was an HST here, it's gone already. Visit Devon. There's a big poster there on the wall. The old vending machines. I'll have a look at that in a minute. Right, we'll just stop here. So normally when you play Train Sim on the Riviera line, you'll do a scenario that goes to like Paignton or Newton Abbot or wherever, Torquay, and you always go down here, off towards, you know, all that track down there is normally where you go, but today we're actually going off to the left, so we're going to be going down this track instead. So there's the depot and stuff. Where was it? The vending machine. Let's see what we got in the vending machines today. We've got Kit Kats there, Twixes, some water, packets of crisps. Any progress on that line in the southwest that you know of? I know that there was a version of it that came out last year where they added a little bit more of the track again still, but apart from that, I'm not sure. I still think that little bit of track is still a bit bare though between the two locations. I think Rob Powell did a stream with the route because I think he was building a scenario for that route with the Class 800 or whatever. So I think that is still the most recent version of the route. I think it's on version 10 or 11 now, I think. You can go to Alan Thompson's sim and it'll have it there to download. I think they renamed it now, so I think it's now called... It's not just called Devon Rails or something. I think it's got a longer name to it now, like Berks and Hants and whatever, Cornwall or whatever it is. Right, anyway, we're heading towards Exeter Central. As I said, there's only a couple more stops now. Now, I think in reality this train would go to Exmouth, but because there isn't Exmouth on this route itself, it's only going as far as the St James's Park. But I think in reality it would go on to Exmouth. Or would have done. Although it could have gone to St James's Park and then turned around and gone back, I don't know. Because it is an early morning thing, so yeah, they sort of mess about with the train schedules differently in the mornings and evenings, so anyway, you go through a tunnel. And then you come into Exeter Central, which is quite a big station. Okay, it's only got 2 platforms, but what I mean is just all the buildings around it. And I think this is more in the city centre as well of Exeter. I think Exeter St David's is more on the outside of the city, whereas this is more in the city. Oh, can you hear a Spitfire? Nice. It's quite nice because my local airfield has Spitfires flying around quite often, which is quite nice to hear in the sunnier months of the year. So yeah, this is Exeter Central. Obviously, years ago there'd have been more tracks here and stuff. I don't know if they had platforms here or not, or whether or not it was just more like you can see where there was probably a track that went through here. It was probably because they had, and then this was probably built at a newer time, this footbridge, which is why it kind of has this here, I'm guessing. Well, it could have been this was like this was like the start, Anyway, next stop is St James's Park, which is where this service. Good to hear they're still maintained and flying. Yeah, well, what it is, Cardiff, is that there's a company that do experience flights with Spitfires. So they have two-seater Spitfires, which they used to use years ago for training, you know. So they're two-seater Spitfires, and then because they're like experience flights and they're for people that have a lot of money, they're very expensive. So I think it costs about £4,000 for a flight, and then you go and so literally like they can do a few of these flights every year, and they'll get quite a lot of money back to keep the Spitfires maintained. But they do different packages, so depending on how much money you've got, you can have things like a plane that follows your plane up, and then they have photographers on the plane taking pictures of you in the plane. You know, like an air-to-air camera type thing. So if you've got a lot of money, you can really do a lot of things with it. I think the most basic one though is that you literally go up for like a half-an-hour flight around near where I live, around the coastline out to sea, and then they do a bit, maybe some aerobatics if you want to do couple of loops or whatever, and then they go back. But obviously, you know, depending on how much money you pay, depends on, I guess, the things that you can do. But yeah, I know it's quite expensive even for the most basic thing. But then again, you know, there are people out there that would love to sort of like be able to say that they flew in a Spitfire, so yeah, or a barrel roll, whatever, you know. Like I say, they sometimes have like a Cessna Caravan type plane that's sometimes been up with them in the past, and then that'll fly alongside them, and then obviously there'll be people making a video up, so then you can wave at the camera when you're in the cockpit of the plane or whatever. I don't know. There's so many things you could do. Right, anyway, we are at St James's Park. Now, if Sting Fan Man was here, he'd be very happy because he'd think we were at Newcastle, but we're not. Because obviously those that know football know that Newcastle Football Club is at St James's Park. But this is St James's Park in another part of the world. Now, normally what would happen is a train would go down here, and then there'd be another through a tunnel, and then there'd be another route that goes off. But we don't have that. As I said, there is another route that allows you to do that, though. Oh, look. Scenario incomplete. I wonder why that was. Look, I wonder why my scenario was incomplete, Carter. Look, at least I got a tick. At least I got a tick at Barnstaple, and I got a tick when I handed my token back. But like most scenarios where I get incomplete, I never really play them again anyway. There's far too many scenarios out there to play. There's no point in dawdling and going back to another scenario that you've already played before in the past just to get ticks. That's how I work anyway. I know some people like to make sure they get all the ticks. And that's probably why they've only ever played 4 scenarios in Train Sim since they've had it for 10 years. Because it's taking them that long just to get all the ticks every time they play. Oh, I've had Train Sim for 10 years and I've played 4 scenarios, whereas like other people would have played hundreds of scenarios because they don't care whether they get a tick or not. But anyway, so yeah, this is the Barnstaple to Exeter route. Now it doesn't have a thumbnail because this route originally was made before Train Sim Classic kind of had the interface change where you had thumbnails in it. So if you ever get routes that don't have thumbnails, don't worry, it doesn't mean you have them. A lot of the time it could just be that it was just made at a time before the thumbnail system was a thing. Now I know there was like on UKTS years ago you could get like something that where someone had gone and made thumbnails for these routes, and then they would put a thumbnail in a folder. But anyway, so if I remember rightly, this route itself came with these scenarios. So it was just Exeter to Barnstaple in a class 143, 70 minute, 80 minutes, and then there was a festival visitor one with an HST which was just yeah. Now I could have done that one, but I know then it would have just been like everyone else doing HST. So I thought, well, I don't want to do any HSTs for a while. Although I could probably have played like a Great Western scenario with thing. But anyway, yeah, this is what we mean about the Harrogate loop. See, it's the thumbnail was never updated. This route fits the 1-4. Yeah, I mean the other trains that they tend to do. I don't think the 143 exists anymore now. So I think in reality now they use the class 150 on that route now, Carder. Or they did in the past anyway. I've got quite a few routes you can see with no things. See, these ones are a bit weird because what I did is I actually removed them from Train Sim, but I think it's because I've got some scenarios which are third-party ones in, and basically the route folder is not empty, and then it gets confused and thinks, oh, this route's empty. I don't have all the routes installed on here, just the ones that I put on at the time. So there's gonna be not all the routes that I've ever had in the past. I see you got the Cambridge route. Yeah, I've had it a long time since it sort of came out originally. Yeah, King's Cross and King's Lynn to Cambridge and Peterborough and Chatmoss. I think they're the only two ATS pay rare routes that I've bought. So there's a few, but yeah, it's not really everything that I've ever had, ever. See, I've got that one as well. This is quite a good workshop route though. Midland Main Line, London St Pancras to Leicester. So someone went on workshop and basically extended it so you can go from Bedford all the way up to Leicester now. So then what happens is that Leicester is where it can join up with the Just Trains route. So you can do a scenario, say, from London St Pancras to Leicester, and then you can then play another scenario that goes from Leicester to Sheffield or wherever it is they go to. But that's quite good. It's quite a nice little route. There's a few little scenarios for it. Let's have a look at it again. Let's see what scenarios I've got. So, you know, a class 170, a class 45, high-speed trains, and Just Trains class 222 as well. And then they had some default trains in there because it was a workshop route. So obviously they had some of the other ones. There are other scenarios out for this, but I've only played a few. Sussex Lines is a nice freeware route, which I like because it's covering the route of track where I live. It hasn't got as far as my station, but probably, hopefully this year, they'll have my local station in this route. So then I'll be able to say, well, at least my station is in Train Sim now. Because it's never been in Train Sim. The only time my local station was ever in a Train Sim was with Microsoft Train Simulator with a add-on and that. But in Train Sim, it's Train Sim Classic itself. It's never been in there. So there's quite a few scenarios on there. The longest scenario is an hour and 10 minutes where you drive a Class 700 from Littlehampton to Blackfriars. And then there's quite a few scenarios here as well. But that's quite a nice little route. These ones I just installed recently because I don't know why, but I just did. It was probably because there was something that I needed from one of those routes to be in another route somewhere. 100 minutes class 700 scenario. Yeah, it's quite a long one. You literally go along from Littlehampton, go along the West Coast way, and then you go up. Now I think I've streamed that in the past. I think I've actually driven it harder. So it might actually be a video, although it's always more fun to play a service rather than watch someone do it. Now I think this one might have no. As I said, I haven't got everything installed on there because yeah, that sounds interesting. Yeah, I believe though, and this is one of the bummers, is I believe that for Sussex Line you have to have V2 of Wherry Lines. Because it uses some assets from it, so. But I don't know if you're aware, Carter, that V2 of the Wherry Lines, if you already had V1, I think it's only about £6, £7 to upgrade it to V2 anyway, if I remember. Don't get confused with the one that's just come out from ATS, because that's like a separate version of the Wherry lines, which is based on the fact that all these semaphore signals were taken away. And then the ATS version of Wherry lines is basically how it is today with all the newer signalling. So, you have the steam engine. I'm sure they said that if you had the steam version, you could still upgrade it, if I remember. I'm sure if you go onto their product page, it says if you've had steam version, you can also upgrade. But I don't know. I've got the steam version. I've got both versions. The only reason I got the steam version was because it was very cheap in a sale, and I was getting fed up of playing workshop scenarios, and basically it would say I didn't have some of the trains, and that was because I didn't have the steam version. So I thought, well, at least I can play a lot more scenarios now. But it doesn't show up as version 1. I think if I remember, it just basically overwrites it. But then, because they didn't really change the track between each version, and all the scenarios still work. So you can see I've got a load of scenarios on here. Loads and loads and loads. But all the ones that normally had APWL, that was the Steam version of it. So quite a lot of Whitemead's ones. Yeah, you're correct. Yeah. But I'd probably wait for a sale, because then you can get probably some money off it. Because I know the upgrade price is quite cheap, but yeah, I'd probably get it in the sale. I think the next AP sale now won't probably be till whenever. They don't have many a year. They've not long had a sale, AP. I think they had a sale about 2 or 3 weeks ago to commemorate something. So they had a sale then. But as I wasn't really playing Train Sim or streaming a lot, I wasn't really paying much attention about what was on sale and what wasn't. Because at the moment I'm not really getting anything too much. But these were just because, I think it was because Whitemead had done quite a few scenarios on here. But they only worked with the Steam version. So I wanted to play some of the Whitemead ones. Yeah, because the thing is, I think when you upgrade to version 2 of Wherry Lines, it isn't a checker as such. It's not like it checks to see if you've ever bought it. It'll just basically go, well, if you bought the wrong one, well, that's tough, because I think the upgrade version is just a smaller installer, because it only installs what it needs, and then anything that you've had from the Steam version or the version 1 from the AP site, then obviously you've got to have those there already, otherwise you'll have bits missing. So I think that's how it works, really. Right, anyway, I think that's about it. DPS East Coast Mainline South. Now, I installed that recently because there was quite a few workshop scenarios I downloaded, which had some of the trains in. But these are all using the original DLCs, although because I've got sound packs for a lot of these, then obviously the trains get better sounds. What's the Class 700 scenario called? That comes with Sussex lines. That's one of the route ones. Actually, no, it's not one of the route ones. Sorry, you get this route. You go to that website, which is where we get the Train Sim World add-ons from, and then you go into the Train Sim Classic section. You'll look on routes, and you'll see the Sussex lines as a route. Now, there is a lot of requirements for this route. But then there's also a scenario pack by Crankybot, which is about, which you can search for, and he did like a scenario pack which included a few scenarios in it. One of them, so you see all these with GCB on, that's all the Crankybot ones. But the Class 700 one was one of those. So it's as I said, it's quite long-winded though, and you probably need quite a few things in it. I'll tell you what though, if you can't find the links, keep an eye on your Discord, Carter, because I'll post the links to you on Discord in about 10 minutes or less, just so you get the direct links to them. But as I said, this route is also work in progress, because what it's doing is it's the West Coast Rail route, so it goes from Brighton all the way to Portsmouth. So the person's probably nearly halfway along now, so he's almost to the halfway point. but when he adds the next section, it'll be halfway. Yeah, I'll send you a link to it. Anyway, I'm going to shoot off now. So thanks for everyone for popping in, for watching the stream. Thanks to John Ramos that was here earlier with the follow from the Philippines. As I said, I've seen him in other streams as well recently. So yeah, anyway, that was just a little journey from Barnstaple to Exeter. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll no doubt see some of you in another stream. Thanks for the entertainment. Thanks, Carter. Thanks for being here, keeping me company. It's always nice to have someone in a stream just to chat to. Just helps a lot. This video will also be going up on YouTube. So anyone on YouTube, well, that'll be up on YouTube. Talking and all. But anyway, I'll catch you all later. So for now, take cares, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.